Hedonistic Hound Press presents No Corny Monster Story by J. Elliott. Do I believe in Bigfoot, Sasquatch, or the Florida skunk ape? You bet. No question. I grew up in Palatka, Florida, which to a passerby is not much. Single-story shops, nothing to get excited about. A half-decent fish house, a quaint downtown historic district. Otherwise, it's auto body, beauty aid, and thrift shops. Palatka is a pit stop between the potato capital of the state and a generous swath of pine forest. I was a senior at Palatka High School. Go Panthers. I talked my girlfriend, Marianne, into going to Robinson's farm for the haunted corn maze. It was a local place that had a fruit stand out by the road and fields in the back near the woods. They had the cheesy fair games, a haunted shack, a haunted hayride, and a corn maze. Marianne didn't want to go, and I should have listened. But my best friend Tony and his girlfriend Viv were going. I wanted to go. We talked her into it. We started with the haunted shack, and it was all dark and creepy, and monsters and freaks would pop out at you. And then they locked you into a room, and you couldn't get the door open. A group of ghouls would surround you and paw at you. Pretty good makeup, actually. Poor Marianne was the closest to the door, screaming and pounding to get out. She bruised her hands pretty badly with the pounding. After locking us in, of course, they opened the door super fast, and we fell out like Mo, Larry, and Curly, which was kind of funny. The door slammed shut behind us. Viv jumped up and squealed. Tony and I laughed. Marianne was all freaked out, and she said she wanted to leave. We called her a chicken.
You guys, I want to go home.
And wandered through some of the silly carnival stuff. Spin the witch, win a prize. We all got food and drinks, fair food. She got a hot pretzel. I got a corn dog. Viv got a giant blue cotton candy as big as her head. We wandered around some more. Marianne calmed down. We talked her into the haunted hayride. We told her she'd be just fine. Nothing would mess with her in the middle of the wagon. Kids were going on it, right? She relented. We were sitting on the bales of hay going really slowly in the dark. It seemed really lame, just the sound of the tractor pulling us through the darkness. Well, all of a sudden there was this burst of fog, and moaning zombies came out of a graveyard and chased us. Some of them climbed on the wagon. One of them grabbed someone and pulled him off the wagon screaming. We figured the guy was a plant, to make us think he was one of us. We rode through a trailer park. Serious trailer trash junk in the dirt yards. Trailers unlevel, grungy, falling apart. Some hot babes came running out half naked with leather collars and ropes around their wrists.
Save me! Oh my God,
like
please,
they'd been
help!
help! They screamed for help, and they ran toward the wagon. Just as they got close to us, some redneck thugs in overalls emerged from the woods firing guns. They rounded them all up and dragged them back towards a dilapidated shed.
Mister, please save
The chicks
me.
were still screaming and pleading, please
Please
save us,
save us,
as they disappeared from view. There was a calm as we rode around some more. It was quiet. Again, just the sound of the tractor plodding along. Was that the end of the ride already? No. An enormous combine tractor blasted its lights on us. It was right behind the wagon, with all its machinery grinding and whirring, like any minute it would start chomping the back of the wagon. It seemed alive like an insect-faced transformer, a crazy huge, pissed-off farm truck. Marianne screamed a lot, but afterwards she said she thought that was fun. We got let off right near the corn maze. Viv and Tony followed a group of teens into the maze. Marianne and I were behind them. She was pressed up tight against my side, holding my arm. After the first 2 turns, the lights behind us were lost. It was dark as shit. New moon. No flashlights allowed, just the glow sticks on the ground. That hemmed-in feeling from the tall corn all around. It muffles sounds, With all the turns, we got pretty disoriented pretty quick. Dudes all in black with ghoulish, glowing faces popped out of the corn right next to us. Marianne jumped and stumbled into me, mashing my foot. Her head bumped my jaw. I bit the inside of my lip hard. I put my arm around her and we moved forward. Of course, the creepy dudes with masks and mock chainsaws came out of nowhere and circled us. I heard Viv scream ahead of us. Marianne screamed too, pressing into my chest. The guy yelled something like, "You're gonna die!" in a deep, spooky voice right next to her head, and she bugged like she was gonna bolt. I grabbed her arm and she yanked on my arm so hard I thought she'd sure dislocate my shoulder. She freaked and started whining, "I want to get out. I can't do this. I'm so scared. I'm so
Get
scared."
out. I want to go home.
And up ahead, Viv was pretty freaked out too. The chainsaw dudes disappeared back into the corn, and it was quiet again. Tony and I told the girls that they could walk in the middle of us so they spooks couldn't get to them. We moved forward, all arm in arm. We must have been at the back of the maze where the cornfield was up against the pine forest. It seemed even darker, much darker, and quieter. We had gone a few turns with no spooks. Viv and Marianne were relaxing just a little. Suddenly, right next to us, a raspy voice whispered, "Kill, kill, 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 kill." Just like in the Friday the 13th movies, and Jason appeared, with the hockey mask. He grabbed Marianne's arm, and I didn't think they were allowed to touch people. Marianne wigged out. She broke away screaming, I can't take it. She grabbed Viv, and they took off running. I feel so badly now, but we were laughing then. It was funny how bugged out they were. I mean, Tony and I weren't too worried. We figured we were almost to the end and we'd meet up, right? Shit, I can't help crying. I feel so guilty. We thought it was all fun, It was really dark back there and spooky quiet. And then there was this smell, this rank, garbagey, putrid, skunky, noxious odor. It was heavy, just blanketing us. We stopped. Tony, gagging, asked,
"Oh my God, what is that smell?"
Well, we heard some movement in the corn, and that's when I heard Marianne scream. Then Viv. They were just ahead of us, somewhere around a bend. I heard Viv screaming for Marianne, and then for us, and then just out of her mind screaming. A harsh shriek turning into a high wail like hysterical blubbering. I had a flashlight with me, and so did Tony. We turned them on and ran towards the screaming, tripping on dried corn stalks. We came around a turn and saw Viv on her knees screaming hysterically, her eye makeup streaking all over her face. God, I can still hear that scream. She flailed an arm towards the corn to her right. A hulking, hairy, man-ape thing. It was like 10 feet tall with a huge, hard, bony-looking head like a gorilla. It growled at Viv like King Kong, and then it picked up Marianne. She was limp and had blood on her arms and big claw marks. It carried her off into the corn. The teeth were so big, and that stench. We were just so shocked. For a second, I thought it was like the dudes on the wagon, all a joke, and he'd bring Marianne right back. But that smell lingered, and that was no spook costume. That thing was real. Those teeth were real. The deep claw marks on Marianne's white arms. She was so limp, like a half bag of laundry. She was so tiny anyway, poor thing. I puked that corn dog right up until I had dry heaves. The aftermath was awful. They only found her purse and one sneaker. The police insisted we were perpetuating a hoax. If I had been alone, they would have locked me up for sure. Thank God I had witnesses. The only ones who believed us were the wackos who wanted to interview us about our skunk ape encounter. And poor Viv, she was never the same after that. She became a recluse and got addicted to antidepressants. Not that I've done much better. Most of the time, my closest friends have names like Jack Daniels and Jim Beam. I had to tell Marianne's parents what happened. God. I could tell they didn't believe me. Mary Ann's mother rushed at me, pounding her fists in my chest, shrieking, "What did you do with my baby girl?" Great boyfriend I turned out to be, too stunned to chase after it to try to rescue her. But if you'd seen it, God, it was huge. Tony and I talked about it afterwards, and we agreed that we probably couldn't have stopped it. I mean, maybe if we'd had followed it instead of running for help, we could have saved her, but I don't think so. It was there, and then it was gone. It moved so fast. The cops said the corn was too trampled, that it was impossible to tell, even find a trail to follow. I don't think they looked too hard. They kept on asking me the same questions, trying to get me to change my story. Turns out, Robinson's farm was smack dab in the middle of Florida skunk ape habitat. I don't believe in that crap. I mean, I thought it was a stupid urban legend. But I saw that thing, and I smelled it. God, I will never forget that smell. That was no damn hoax. And poor Mary Ann's body was never found.